Hello, this is Andrew Ward. This is my submission for the Mobile App Development 2 final project. Whenever I was deciding what I wanted to do for this application, I knew that I wanted to take the authentication that we had done in the previous module and use that as a starting point so that whenever a user logged in, they would be dropped into some type of unique session with unique data to their account. So whenever I log in, I see my information. Whenever you log in, you see your information. And I also knew that I wanted to fetch data via an API and populate that data to the screen like we had done in some of the previous exercises. So I began looking around at some free APIs that were available, and I found one for a website that I have used in the past, and so I'll pull that up now. This is a site called Raider.io, and it is basically a site that actually itself scrapes data from the World of Warcraft API, the video game World of Warcraft. I've played World of Warcraft for a very long time, and I've used this site in the past. And essentially, what this does is pull data regarding your account and gives you a little bit more of a consolidated place to kind of see things about your particular account. So this is actually one of my friend's characters here. You can see the character name, class, specialization, all of that, gear, talents, and some various information. If you don't play the game, I know this probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you. But Raider.io has a pretty well documented API. And so, if you go over to the API documentation, one of the first examples that they give is fetching very simple character data. And so, you can see that they have an excellent place here that you can actually do test executions without even having to have something like Postman. So, I decided basically what I wanted to do was a user is able to log in and they are able to enter in these required information right here. So the region, US, EU, Korea, etc. The realm or the server name and the character name. And then they would be able to add this to their account on my, in terms of my application account. And whenever they log out and back in, that data would persist via storing that in Firestore. And so whenever I log in, I see my characters. Whenever you log in, you see your characters, right? And you can see an example of the JSON data that is returned for this. Now, I'm not doing something with all of this data. Mine is pretty simplistic, but you can kind of see an example of what to expect. So if I open up Xcode here, you can see that we're using the same view model design structure here that we have in the past. We have a character model. Like I said, we're not doing something with all of those different attributes of the character, just a few of them. We have a view model which does the actual fetching from the API. You can see here basically it takes in a region, a realm, and a character, fetches the data, and it also, this is what loads your characters from Firestore whenever you log in, and also adds the characters to Firestore whenever you fetch the character. And then we have all of our different views. Some of these you saw were from my last submission for authentication. And so basically, I took my last submission and kind of dropped the rest of this on that. So I guess without further ado, we'll just kind of see how this works. So if we launch the simulator, and I'm going to get Xcode and this out of the way so we can see. I'm going to run it on an iPad just so it's a little bit bigger and easier to see in the recording. You can see that whenever it's launched, we have a very simple authentication menu, just email and password. It asks you to enter in an existing account and sign in, or if you don't have an account, you can create one. So we'll just start with creating an account. Now, we're not doing any type of whenever you register, you receive a link and you have to confirm. So I'm just going to put in a fake email here. We'll just say test@acme.com. And then we'll add a password to this. And so now you can see that you are dropped into a view here where it's asking you to enter in the required information for the API query, and then you have a search. So we'll test this here. We'll say US, and then we'll say Malganis, and then we will say another one of my friend's characters. And you can see it will populate this character down here, and if you click on it, you can have some very basic attributes about this character: name, race, class, faction, and the thumbnail URL I actually put here. Okay, so now if we sign out of this application and I log back in as this user, the information should persist. You can see it does. The information persists through the logon because this data has been written into Firestore. So now we'll sign up again. We'll create another account. We'll say test2@acme.com. Okay. Create a new account. You can see this account does not have any information there, and then we will put in another character, another one of my friends' accounts. I'm not using any of my characters because I haven't played in so long; they've gone inactive, so it doesn't return anything from the data. So you can see simplistic here, and then whenever test2 logs back in, we log in and we should see our specific character to this, and we do. So that's about it in a nutshell there. I would say challenges were the Firebase documentation is extensive, but I actually found it easier just to find a good YouTube video on the authentication and the reading and writing to Firestore. I actually ended up consulting like a third party YouTube video, just one that someone had made. Found that a little bit easier. The Radar.io API is very simple to work with. I didn't really have too much problem there. I specifically chose an API that didn't require authentication. I originally was going to try to pull from the actual World of Warcraft API, which requires OAuth, and I didn't want to deal with having to set up the authentication and all of that. Radar.io is just open. And I, of course, there was a lot of Googling and Stack Overflow for, uh, you know, like the regex on the password requirements. I made a note in the comments. I don't know if that is the best way to do that, but I found a Stack Overflow article basically for a regex statement that forces the password to be somewhat complex. There were some instances where I kind of got stuck on how the application looked and making it a little bit prettier. I had to Google around on it. Overall, it wasn't too bad, but it's pretty simple. If I were going to improve upon it further, I would say make it look a little bit prettier. Add some actual icons to these, like the actual Warlock class icon and all of that good stuff. But that'll be something we can do in the future. So anyway, that's about it. I appreciate you having me. I've enjoyed both classes. I appreciate your responsiveness anytime in the Discord, anytime questions were asked, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you.